All right, thank you everyone for joining. Welcome to our Trifecta co-hosted webinar. Today we will be covering these areas. So looking at the power of Workspace for SMBs, the capabilities within Jumpcloud, the experience of migrating, implementing with Wursta, a joint customer success story, and then a very special live demo. Your presenters today are first myself. My name is Caroline Quintanar. I lead our marketing and partnerships in UK and Ireland. We also have Chase Doling from Jumpcloud, Paulius Sonius from Google Cloud, and then Patrick Della Peruta, who's from Worsta as well. So just a couple of opening remarks and also a few housekeeping remarks. So if you could please stay muted throughout the presentation, that's very helpful to reduce any noise or any feedback or, the odd random barking dog, which happens to most of us. Also, if you have any questions, please see at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see a series of dots called meeting tools. If you click that, there is Q&A, and we like to collect the questions there so that we can review them and answer them in the dedicated Q&A portion at the end. If you do have anything that is urgent, you can also put it in the chat, and we'll look to be collating that at the end in the Q&A. So just in my opening remarks here, I wanted to share a little bit about Worsta, who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. So Worsta's historically a Workspace partner for over a decade. We're also a Google Cloud Premier partner. So been around the block, definitely know what we're doing. And as AI and agents have come to the forefront, it's become a buzzword, but also something that many customers really don't have a good idea of what that means. So we've taken all of our expertise and put together what we like to call our agentic journey. So you'll see here, we've got our 7-phase approach. In each of those different phases, we provide you with different support through this journey and essentially act as your guide to make it a little bit less scary. In today's session, we're going to be focusing on where our ISV partner, Jumpcloud, really slots in this journey. So that will be specifically in workforce augmentation and then in the governance, security, and compliance. So what powers this agentic journey? So through our experience through the Google ecosystem with our customers and with the advent of agents, kind of come down to these 3 particular areas. The people, right? So we're here to empower your workforce. We're here to help enhance their skills, almost, giving them superpowers, right? Taking away some of the mundane admin and really boring things that they have to do on a daily basis and allow them to use their brain power for more interesting and more fun things. So we're not here to replace people. It's really to enhance their work experience and enhance your business. We also are going to be doing a look at your processes, right? So processes are key to everyone's business. That essentially will then make up your culture as well. And that's really important. You've been doing business in a very particular way for a long time. Agents and AI can definitely be helpful and definitely can improve that, but it will be a bit scary and it will be a big change. And together, we can help you go through that. So it's not as painful and it's a little bit more exciting. And then at the end of the journey, you find what is that purpose, right? And so it's not just here, have some AI and good luck. We are going to actually be able to show you some measured results, whether it's saving time on, again, mundane tasks. That's my favorite things to say, but that's where I use AI in my life. Be able to show how you're able to get your services and products to market faster by leveraging some of these tools, and also being able to improve the customer experience, not just you as our customer, but for your customers as well. So where does Jumpcloud come into this fantastic journey? As I highlighted it in that first slide, they are going to be in three particular areas. The first, which I'll just talk a little bit about very quickly, is the AI readiness assessment, which will then produce the AI readiness rating. The assessment really is to have a look holistically at your business to see any gaps in the processes, your tech stack, or security. Doesn't necessarily need to mean that there's actual gaps. So we're not going to come in and say, wow, this is all terrible. But what we'll be able to do is say, hey, these are some areas that you can definitely improve. And if we build this journey together, this is where you're going to end up. So there's quick wins, there's long-term wins, and we'll be able to map that together. While we're doing that, we're also identifying where our partners like Jumpcloud can come in and make it even more seamless and less painful. So Jumpcloud, as I mentioned before, they offer fantastic services and products around governance, security, and compliance. And also around workforce augmentation. So I'm not going to go too much into that because I don't want to steal anyone's thunder, and especially with that live demo, really want to keep you on the edge of your seat for that after our presentations. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Paulius, who's a customer engineer from Google Cloud, and he is going to talk to us a little bit more about how Workspace is a powerful tool for small and medium businesses.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Caroline. So hi, everyone. My name is Paulius. I'm a Google Cloud customer engineer. And today I will take you through the power of Google Workspace. Again, in the recent years, a big focus for organizations across the globe has been the shift from the physical office to the hybrid work. But over the last couple of years, this focus has shifted towards artificial intelligence and generative AI. It's a big thing right now. So in a nutshell, generative AI is a type of artificial intelligence that can help humans create content such as text, images, and much, much more. It's really kind of representing a new era of work. And the world is rapidly shifting to embrace this as it transforms how people work and do things and boosts creativity. Business leaders across the various industries and around the world recognize that they need to quickly develop plans for adopting generative AI in a safe, secure, and scalable manner. Now, furthermore, we can really see three emerging themes here. So when we think about how AI is influencing our day-to-day work. First, driving productivity gains with 79% of senior IT leaders saying that generative AI will reduce workload and burnout on their teams. Second, unlocking economic growth with generative AI impact on productivity has a potential to add trillions of dollars in value to global economy. And third, improving customer service with 77% of IT leaders believing that technology will lead their organizations serve their customers faster and much more efficiently. Now, studies have shown that people who use Google Workspace are happier at work and much more innovative. So we know that happier, more engaged employees deliver a better experience to your customers, which support top-line revenue growth. And because our open platform is built with collaboration at the core, people have ambient awareness of what others are working on and a broader access to people and ideas across an organization. Because of this, we've seen at 75% of Google Workspace users say that their teams are more innovative. And going with Google Workspace is quite literally a bet on your future workforce. Google Workspace is a leader in education market with over 140 million students and teachers who are using the products to learn and grow. Additionally, a study on the emerging workforce found that 86% of the recent college graduates prefer working in Google Docs, and that 92% of Workspace users say that the real-time collaboration has become the standard in their teams. That's a big number. So with this in mind, let's have a look at what tools and products are as part of Google Workspace. I know that the first thing probably in most of your minds come is Gmail. A lot of people know about Gmail, but that's not all. There's so much more to it. And I like to think about them in three kind of categories in a way. So one would be connect, create, and collaborate, and control and manage. The first part allows you and your teammates to connect wherever you are, no matter the device or whatever you're using to connect to. So here we are talking about products such as Gmail, Google Calendar, Google Meets, and Google Drive. All those things can be accessed from a web browser. The second category are the applications that allow for teams to create and collaborate in real time asynchronously. That includes not only docs, sheets, or slides, but also the more advanced offerings such as AppSheet. Now, lastly, we have the control and manage category. These offerings are really focusing in on ensuring that your organization's data, users, and the environment is easy to manage and everything altogether is secure. Now let's talk about that one thing that everyone is talking about, Gemini. You can chat with Gemini to brainstorm efficiently, refine your thinking, and discover new prospects to really supercharge your work. You can also quickly find and summarize the answers you need. Also, double-check your responses and make informed decisions with Gemini from information across the web. You can then, for example, bring your insights and creations generated with Gemini into Google Workspace apps, such as Google Docs or Gmail. And the most important thing is that you can work with confidence that Google is not using your data for advertising purposes, nor it's training its models. That's very, very important. On a high level, I wanted to touch a little bit more about the security capabilities in Google Workspace. Here we have organized into 5 sections, starting from the right top left corner with data security that includes capabilities such as DLP, which is data loss prevention, and labeling all that data. Next, we have email security and data retention. Here we want to look at spam, phishing, malware protection, as well as legal hold on e-discovery capabilities. Below, we have device security, which is really a key in today's hybrid way of thinking. If your employees have corporate devices and they use their own, Google Workspace has you covered, because thanks to tools such as endpoint management or mobile device management, it will take care of that. Now we have account and access security that covers all known authentication mechanisms, such as MFA, multi-factor authentication, or single sign-on, as well as Google Workspace-specific features like context-aware access. Now, last but not least, we also have admin security controls, which are specifically created for people who are working on a backend and are controlling the security by monitoring the dashboards and implementing various security rules and policies in your organization to keep everything secure. All right, so let's get the most important thing out of the way, which I already touched on, by the way. You will never see an ad in Google Workspace. The data that you put in Google Workspace is your data. Can't emphasize that much more than that. We cannot sell it. We cannot use it to improve our products. The only thing that we can do is serve it back to you in a manner agreed upon in your terms and services. That's that. You can delete it or export it at any time. The choice is yours. Also, your apps are always available. There's no downtime or maintenance events of any sort. Now, with that in mind, I would like to pass it over to Chase, who will take you through streamlining the identity and access management. So thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for your time today.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for hopping in today and spending some time with us. Nothing I love more than talking about, IT solutions and what's going on in the world. My name is Chase. I'm Principal Strategist and Director here at Jumpcloud. So I've been with the organization a little over 6 years, and it's been really interesting to see it grow and kind of evolve into all these different spaces. But I wanted to start with a little bit in terms of why we exist. Why are we here today? What are some of the problems that we're dealing with? And when we are looking at the IT space, we really see it as very complex and fragmented market, if you will, right? And there's a lot of folks that are relying on a lot of different solutions. So we actually have our own third-party IT trends report that comes out every time, and we see that most people are anywhere from 5 to 10 tools, all kind of growing and expanding from there. And so there's a lot of different solutions that come into the fold, and what this really does is rather important, right? It's really hard to see what all the users are up to, right? Because you have to start to integrate all these different areas into one, and it really becomes not only hard just to see what people are up to, but that's also where a lot of security gaps start to form in terms of understanding where data is going, what's it coming from, and all those different areas. So we kind of like to think about this in terms of the spider web, where even if you might have, Google Workspace at your center, you have all these other different elements that are making up the rest of your IT stack and environment in terms of how you operate in 2025 and beyond. And the worst part is that's all the stuff that right? There's this whole other layer around shadow IT that you might not be aware of. And that really creates kind of your total threat service as we think about all these different applications that are being operated today in most organizations. And I want to talk just a little bit more around shadow IT. This is one of those topics that, in addition to agentic AI and kind of some of the other terms that you hear around, this is really becoming much more of a top concern for organizations because of that. There's much more shadow AI usage than ever before. I think there's 5 different AI companies that are minted every week, and everyone wants to try them out and making sure that they are productive and they're kind of going into this mode of transition and making sure that they can make the most of it. And at the same time, as we just heard, right, there's really concerns around how you think about data and where it lives and all those different elements. And so making sure that you can understand what users are getting access into and kind of where they're going, that has become a top of mind concern for a lot of the IT and security professionals that we talk to every single day. And so what's the antithesis is? Why does Jumpcloud exist? And kind of what are the problems that we exist to solve? Is we're really focusing on unifying all these different categories of work into one platform. And when you can unify all those different elements, that's when you start to simplify your IT environment a little bit more. You have a little bit less complexity, right? Because you have one platform to manage all those different components. And then we also have fewer IT vendors. And so a lot less point solutions. Typically when people are implementing Jumpcloud, they're removing anywhere from 4 to 6 different types of tools. As you can see here, we're touching across identities, devices, access types. So I'll dive a little bit deeper into here in just the next couple minutes. But then that really also starts to affect your total cost of ownership. As you think about all these different systems and all these different integrations that you have to maintain, not only is there the hard dollar cost, right, but also the soft dollars and making sure that people are trained on multiple different systems. You might have certifications. You might also have to making sure that those integrations are up to date. All those different elements play into the fold. And that's really where we focus and spend a lot of our time across all those different areas. So real quickly, if this is the first time you've heard about Jumpcloud or coming into it, there's really 3 big categories that I'll start to walk through here in the next couple minutes as well. We'll dive into a live demo, which I'm real excited. We'll take it for a quick spin. You can kind of see what thousands of global IT admins log into every single day to secure their environments. But at a high level, they really unify all of our identities. So whether they're coming from Google Workspace or Microsoft 365, we have a lot of folks that do a big mix. We centralize those identities into one secure identity that you can manage. And then we'll move into devices. This is really what makes us a little bit more unique in the market. So we're cross-platform, Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, Android, all of those within one dashboard. So you can see the different security policies, making sure that those devices are secure and up to date and patched. And then finally within our access area. So we leverage a lot of different protocols and other areas, making sure that you can get into networks that you need to, a lot of different SSL and web applications. But then the fun part starts because then you can add in a layer of MFA and you can start to create some conditional access policies that allow you to really gauge the type of security that you want within your organization. And so with this is a lot of like what organizations get into. This is what we work and partner with Worsta on every single day in terms of kind of bringing to life this new identity lifecycle, if you will, right? Where you're starting with Google as kind of the center, kind of as you started with Gmail, you kind of grew up, especially kind of from the previous stats. I was a student myself as we go through and start to learn into this. So you get all those different elements, and that's kind of really a lot of organizations' first sense of their digital identity, right? I got an email address, I'm a real person, kind of other things. But as you grow and scale, it gets a little bit more complex. And so what we started to do is making sure that we're able to unify that identity, but then taking that identity and manage and provision the different applications, devices that you might need. And this really is where it helps fall into kind of zero trust architecture, or kind of if you have some of those frameworks, compliance frameworks also again fit in here in terms of making sure that you have that identity tied to that device, and then you can bring in the right security policies. And then you're also monitoring and managing all those different areas. And this really helps a lot of folks when you think about the big core jobs to be done, right? Usually it's onboarding and offboarding, because while we love people and fun, they're also fun and difficult, right? But there's a lot of things that go into making sure that people are set up for success when they join an organization. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of check marks and checklists we also need to go through that when people leave the organization, they're doing so securely, right? And making sure that data is not leaving the organization and making sure that you're able to have this entire identity lifecycle all come into fruition. And so a little bit more detail around this, and then again, we'll dive into a more of a detailed demo here in just a second, but just to give you a sense of kind of all these different areas and how they tie them together. So first and foremost, identity management. So we're a cloud directory, right? That's kind of where we sit and own and the origins of the company as we started. And we really focus to sync all those different areas, right? So you can schedule and making sure activations, deactivations, and then also reduce password resets. Because we're managing the device, people can actually reset their own passwords directly from the device level, which is great. Don't have to worry about phishing emails as much. It makes life a little bit seamless and more secure. And then also around access management, we think about groups and dynamic access. And then we also extend a lot of the SSO capabilities within Google to 900 plus apps, and that will continue to grow. And then we also have our own passwordless authentication, which is super neat, right? Because we're actually leveraging biometrics and certificates on the device. So I can actually just use my fingerprint to log in the morning, and that gets me access into everything that I have. Because again, Jumpcloud is managing not only my identity device, but then also my other access areas, including password manager and other pieces. And then finally, I guess not finally, but on the device management side, so we manage multiple different OSs and making sure that we sync those identities into those OSs, which is really important. And then also making sure that we can deploy, manage, patch all the different OSs, but also the Chrome browser that's sitting on top of it. And we also have out-of-box security policies. So think of this as the catalog of fun that we'll walk through, but then we also have custom scripting available to you. And then finally, most importantly, right, and this is kind of where the magic comes together, is we're tying all those larger components together, but that also means that we have all the data across those different elements. So you're actually finally getting the visibility that you need across your environment to understand who's been up to what, who gave them access in the first place, where are they coming from, all those different areas that give you more answers around your environment, which you're really excited about. And then finally, SaaS management. So this is actually our most recent capability. This actually came to us through an acquisition. We were able to re-platform across Jumpcloud, but this is really, as I mentioned, top of mind for a lot of different folks. And so we actually have a Chrome browser extension that will sit in, and it will help understand the different types of applications, where people are going. And the best part is we give you a lot of different controls in terms of understanding what this looks like, because there's kind of two spectrums of this. One is shadow IT and, all the nefarious stuff. Hey, we don't want to do it. We can block all those things. But then there's a lot of other folks that are just trying to get their work done, right? A really good example of that is different types of project management tools. Is it Figma or Miro? Is it, Monday.com or, Atlassian Suite, whatever that might be. There's a lot of different teams that start to spin up. And this gives a lot of IT and security folks not only better visibility into where they're going, but then also better controls around their licensing costs, truly understand who's using what, right? And making sure that we can hone in and making sure that you're really efficient as you start to go to market across all these different areas, and while doing that in a very secure fashion. And so with that, that's great, Chase. We want to solve all the problems in the world, but what does this really look like in the real world? And so one of the joint success stories that I'm really excited to share today is we've been working with high-level professional sports organization, and just talk a little bit more about their journey. What did this look like? How did they come into the fold? And we, there's like most folks, right? We kind of walk into a new opportunity as a new IT leader, like, oh my goodness, everything is all over the place. Who put this where? There's 4 dead bodies in this back. Like you're trying to get a good sense of what is going across in your environment. And they, fortunately centered around Google Workspace and making sure that that was as their fold. So how do we look into extend that? And looking across a lot of different vendors and different capabilities across the market, we went with Jumpcloud. And the reason why is we were able to act as this extension. And I think that's one of the biggest pieces that we see across all of our joint customers, is kind of treating this as an extension into your Google Workspace interface. So using kind of the same identities, pulling that into the fold, but now extending that access across multiple different SSO applications. We're also able to come in and help them with their conditional access policies, making sure that they can go after a couple different compliance frameworks, and they have the security baseline that they are really looking forward to. And like most other things, we're trying to do this on a budget, right? And so like, what are the other different vendors that we're able to consolidate within Jumpcloud? Because we do cover quite a bit, right, in terms of password manager, SSO, device management, identity and access authentication. network access, then the list goes on in terms of all those different capabilities that you're able to centralize. So we were able to work with them in making sure that they had a great positive outcome, right? So because if they're able to run a little bit more efficiently, a little bit more securely, then everyone has a better time at the game, which is really the name of the game in the first place. And so that's just one instance of kind of a customer story. I'm happy to continue to riff on multiple different areas, different verticals that we cover, because really we're a global organization and everyone in the world needs a secure identity to operate fully. And so now we're going to transition and kind of see how you can simplify your own IT.
Excellent. Thank you, Chase. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Chase. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. Patrick Delafruda, a Global Director of Solutions here at Worsta. I've been with Worsta for just over 4 years, but have been a Google Cloud architect, Google Cloud engineer since 2010. I did my first deployment to Workspace, known as Google Apps back then, for about 25,000 user company back in 2010, and really pivoted my career as I was a Microsoft admin prior to that and had no idea what Google Apps was. Had no idea what my CIO meant when he said we're going Google, but nonetheless, I was tapped to be part of that team and have been doing it since. As Chase and Paulius and Caroline alluded to, the deep dive into what we do here at Worsta starts, with our agentic journey, and then double clicking into that sort of step 2, where we're starting to augment the workforce, and we're looking at platforms like Workspace to provide that next step in modernizing your technology. So I'm going to navigate to just one slide here. I'm just going to click over and save some time for the live demo, which is going to follow this. I know everybody's excited to see that. So, really, when we're talking about deploying Workspace, we look at that really as 3 phases as part of that agentic journey. It's deploying Workspace is not as simple as just signing up for a subscription and giving access to your users. Really, the way that we want to approach that is to sit down with you and be a partner in your IT technology design. So we are looking at all of the features, the configurations, everything that is possible within Workspace, layering that into what your business design, your business policies are, when it comes to things like maybe email retention, et cetera. We want to take that all into consideration as we are designing a robust system for you to collaborate on and use as you move into the future. This is where we'll start to explore the Jumpcloud, technology and deploying that as part of your Workspace deployment. As Chase alluded to, there are several advantages to adding in Jumpcloud as part of your overall IT stack, all of the identity and access management, device management, et cetera. So we want to take into consideration what you're doing today, or maybe not doing and should be doing as part of your IT technology stack. Layer that in with what's possible with the solutions that we can provide. Ultimately move into that second phase of core configuration, where we're starting to get these systems tuned up and ready to go for a full deployment of Workspace and Jumpcloud within your ecosystem. This could be working with existing core applications to your business, right? If you're in a healthcare organization, for example, it could be, how does this system integrate with this very legacy EMR system that we still have to use, right? So identifying needs within the business that still may rely on some legacy technology needs, LDAP-dependent applications, client-server applications, so uncovering all of that, designing solutions that will help integrate those sort of legacy applications that still may be needed in your business, and tying that into a more modern solution with Workspace and Jumpcloud. The sort of last phase here, and the last phase could be multiple sub-phases or micro-phases within that deployment, right? So depending on the size of your of your organization, as we are looking to deploy Workspace with Jumpcloud, we may decide as part of our project planning that given the size of the organization, it's several thousand users or tens of thousands of users, a single phase deployment may not be the right answer for your organization, right? Maybe your users are geographically dispersed, and you want to sort of tackle this on a geography or based on geography, those kind of things. All of that will be uncovered as part of our workspace design, our configuration. So the deployment phase of Workspace and Jumpcloud could have micro phases within it, but ultimately we are working towards taking all of the data that you have in your legacy systems, taking the configurations that you'll need from an identity and access management perspective, making sure all of those identities are created, accessible by the end users, that we have all of the pertinent attribute information about users, things like their title and manager and cost code and geography. We want to fine tune the system so that even if it's a part of the technology that you may not use today, right? Something like dynamic criteria groups, right? Where we want to corral users all into a single distribution list based on their title or job function, those kind of things, right? We want to layer in all of the aspects and the sort of the fringe benefits of having these modern cloud identity systems, but ultimately working towards that full deployment, which could be anywhere from 1 to 6 months, depending on the size of your organization, the size of your data footprint of your existing legacy systems, and working towards a full deployment where once we get through those micro phases, we are then launched on Workspace. Users are trained and provided adoption, communications, etc. So they are well aware of the changes that are happening, what that means to them, what they need to know and need to do potentially prior to a migration or a full deployment. And then we work towards that final deployment day, which is something that we try to make a fun, exciting event. We will often augment those deployments with boots on the ground resources so that we can walk around your office floor. We can be part of your team on site so that as users have questions and are looking to find answers for how they need to do things within this new ecosystem, that they have those resources there. So if you are exploring or thinking about looking to move to a more modern collaboration system like Workspace, Wursta is definitely a great partner for that. Along with Jumpcloud, we'd be happy to sit down with you and sort of talk through about what your needs are for a modern collaboration system, and look to see how we can augment your business with modern technology. With that said, I think we are going to jump into a demo here. So Chase, am I handing it back to you, I think?
Yes. So let's go ahead and hop into it. I will say that, no matter how much you try to sacrifice to the demo gods, you never find it quite enough. So pending internet, small children, and all the other sorts of things, we'll start to dive into it. But this becomes the fun part, right? And so I really want to just kind of take a quick walkthrough in terms of, again, this is what thousands of different IT, global administrator, and security teams log into every single day. And so I just wanted to give you kind of a quick 5-minute tour kind of as we go through this, and you have some questions, feel free to throw that into the Q&A. There's a lot to cover. I will try to be concise, but as you can imagine, the entire platform is continuing to grow, which is really amazing to see in terms of all the different capabilities that we're able to provide, yet while keeping it, simple and intuitive, because that's really our roots as we grew the organization. So first things first, here's a nice fancy dashboard, right, of all the different things that might be going on in your environment, the number of users, expired passwords, other pieces. So that way, as you start your day, we wanted to make sure that you start informed. You kind of know where you need to go and spend the rest of your time. One of the biggest pieces that I wanted to talk through, so you'll see kind of some of these other elements pop up, is we kind of have this notion of users. So again, we are a cloud directory, we started there, but then also this notion of users and user groups, and then also devices and device groups. And this is really how we have a one-to-many power across multiple different pieces that we have across these different areas. And there's a bunch of different pieces way to kind of get those users into Jumpcloud. The by easiest to far is actually importing from your own Google Workspace, making sure we can pull in all those different identities, having that single source of truth and unifying them in a very secure manner. And then as we get into the fun part, right? So as you join as a user, you're actually part of multiple different user groups. So let's go ahead and we can click on some, I like to do, let's see, who's a dynamic one these days? We can do part of our CS groups. And as you have all these different elements that come into it, we can actually dynamically provision those access. So as you think coming in from either Google or your HRS system, which is also a lot of other places when people are first getting hired for the first time and coming into the organization, that serves as their first kind of digital identity footprint that we will also pull in. But then you have all these different areas. We'll say, hey, if we want those different people to come in for the CS work, we're automatically applying them. And that's also making sure that we can start to provision and give them access into all those different things in a very automated way. And then all those different pieces too, you can start to see different users that are tied to that, different users and device groups, right? So making sure that as you come into this, hey, I might have a bunch of different demo stations or kind of other pieces that I need to access into, we're automatically provisioning that, as well as networks, radius, and other directories we probably will hop into. So at a high level, that's kind of how we think a lot about our unified users as they come into it. The next piece that we'll cover is authentication. So we play with a bunch of different protocols in terms of how we can making sure that you get access into it. Patrick mentioned one of the oldies but goodies, right? And kind of LDAP authentications of other pieces, you might have that. Each Jumpcloud organization comes with its own cloud LDAP instance, making sure that you can come into that, use that. Radius is another oldie but goodie. It's one of my favorites to spin up because it's so easy, making sure that we can touch into all those different WAPs. But having a shared credential, you don't have to write the Wi-Fi password on the dry erase board as people come into the office. Like all those different elements, making sure that people can sign into the internet using their, again, unified identity is really powerful there. Next area I'll spend some time on is our SSO applications. We have a growing catalog across all these different areas, and there's a couple different ways that we think about this. So we'll use SAML 2.0 in terms of authentication, but then also SCIM and Open OIDC in terms of the provisioning capabilities. So that way, as you're coming in, hey, I'm a new test engineer, I'm already having the right credentials and entitlements into my AWS environment. And that SCIM protocol is automatically provisioning my identity into those different target resources. And then again, when I leave the organization, I hit the lottery and have a great time, I have all those credentials that are then revoked based on that deprovisioning around all those different pieces. And then next, the world is not built for all the SSO applications in the world, unfortunately. That's one of the battles that we continue to fight, and hopefully we continue to grow from there. But also included within Jumpcloud is our own password manager, right? And so it's a little bit different. It lives directly on the device, and we're leveraging biometrics to get in across those areas. So it's a little bit more unique compared to, I'd say, 1Password, LastPassword of the world, where there's kind of this master password notion. We take a different approach where we're actually leveraging the biometrics on those devices, and it's kind of a shared relay system. So a little bit more built-in security in terms of how we think about those different user credentials and leveraging Password Manager. It's what I use to log into this demo environment today. So it's very handy as you start to dive into that. Again, as you have questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. I know I'm probably talking a little bit faster than a New Yorker at the moment, but as you can tell, I'm excited to dive into kind of all the different components we have around Jumpcloud. I want to make sure we have some time to get into it. So the next piece that we really focus in on is our device management. This is one of the core capabilities that we have amongst the organization. And there's a couple different ways that we approach it. First is we do have a root level agent that will live on those devices, Mac, Windows, Linux, where we're targeting those. And it allows us to do a lot of fun stuff, especially around different security policies, run our own different types of commands. But then we also are leveraging MDM protocols as kind of a sidecar shotgun option. So all those different capabilities that you have, is particularly in the Apple ecosystem, the Windows ecosystem, you have that, but you're able to have this combination of both MDM as well as an agent that allows us to perform a little bit more nuanced operations, especially as that dives into kind of our policy management. This is really the name of the game for a lot of organizations that are looking to up-level their security baseline. So one of the things that makes us super unique around this is being able to apply multiple different policies across different OSs, but doing it in a very similar fashion. And so one of my favorite pieces here, so you can see all the different policies that we have. Think about this as your catalog of security, right? If you can pull it in, making sure that you can run those different pieces. But then we also have patch management. And so this allows us to making sure that those OSs are also up to date, as well as your Chrome instance across all those different pieces, making sure that you're always running on latest. One of my favorite pieces that I always like to demo here is, this is the sneaky fun part in terms of how we can really up-level your devices across the board, is by using that device group element, we're able to apply these policy group templates. So you could say, hey, I actually want enhanced security across all my Apple devices. So if you apply this and then match it to that group, it automatically is pulling in all these different security policies and making sure that you are really increasing that security baseline almost instantly, which is really fun to see. The next piece is around with our commands. So if you can think it, you can script it. Again, we're leveraging that agent at that level. So making sure that you can run, this is really how a lot of our customers customize, I'd say, some of their device specific workflows as they think about different policies, different environments that they might be adapting to. Here's some MDM, the policy fun. We won't spend too much time on that. And then finally, as we round out devices, we also have our own software management. There's a lot of different apps that live on people's devices, right? We're spending much more time in web applications and thinking about those different entitlements from an SSO perspective. But don't forget the Adobes of the world and kind of all those other elements that sit on the device level. And so we also provide a couple different ways for you to manage those applications across your devices, as well as providing you your own private repo from that perspective, right? So you can have your own different files. You can making sure that if there's something specific to your organization, you are pushing them down into your devices. Again, we also have kind of directory integration. So I'm just kind of walking down here left-hand side, but a lot of these different instances where you can pull in multiple different sources. One of those that we haven't talked about is Active Directory, right? So if you don't have a cloud-first identity, making sure that you have the option to migrate users off of Active Directory, or you can use it and we kind of maintain it in the middle. So there's a couple different ways we can play there. And then as we start to round out the tour, this is kind of where it gets a little bit more fun, a little bit more spicy, is as we start to think about the security, right? And kind of the conditional access policies and some of these other elements where you can start to see, you can come into these different areas where you say, look, I want to make sure that we have, I'd say, somewhat standard, but as we start to get into more of the interesting stuff, more of the more private, protected, privileged, whatever that might be for your organization, you can actually have a couple different step-up nodes, right? And so we actually have our own push application, so very similar to Duo, where we say, hey, I actually want to challenge this, right? I want to make sure that it's not just a standard authentication or adding in extra layers of security. So you can actually guide what makes the most sense for your organization in terms of what that looks like. And so we provide that with those conditional access policies. The next element that I really wanted to touch on briefly is SaaS management. And so this is one of the areas that a lot of our customers are really leaning into to kind of help solve that shadow IT, shadow AI problem around one of those other areas. I love this because it's, the next newly discovered app is Google Calendar. So I'm just going to not approve it because that means I won't have any meetings for the rest of the day. How about that? But no, as we kind of pop into all these different areas where you can pull in and see these different applications. You can approve them, you can deny them. You can also guide users into the right areas. So you can help guide what that action should be and say, actually, we're moving off of whatever, again, the Figma Miro conversation, one to the other. You can help guide users without blocking them outright. So you can help build better user habits around the applications that they're accessing. And then we can also access costs and other pieces, and you can start to measure truly what your application spend looks like, even though, you might see one thing from finance, but you can see another wing from your IT systems and making sure that you're running secure and the latest. All right, and then what we will do is then tie it all back together. Again, the fun part is because we're unifying all those different giant pillars across your IT environment, we're also collecting the data, right? And so we're giving you the visibility that you need to understand truly what's happening across the system. So across different multiple areas of SSO, application, admin rights, all these different areas, we're collecting all those different pieces. And then for a lot of folks, again, we're going after different frameworks. We want to understand what that looks like. And so we have the option for multiple different reports, and we're actually spending a lot more time here. More custom reports are coming, a lot of more variations around the type of data that you can slice and dice and getting out of Jumpcloud. So this really helps a lot of organizations at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, whatever that might be, say, okay, what's happened across my environment and how can I prove it? It automates all those different pieces, so you don't have to spend time across different integrations making sure that you pull it all in across these different areas. So I know that was a whirlwind tour of kind of a lot of different areas as we touch across the platform, as I mentioned, and we continue to grow and being a little bit more expansive in that area. But I wanted to pause, see if there's questions or other areas that we can step into. So much fun. All packed into one website.
The Q&A section is right now, so, it's time to get all your questions out.
Pop that out. We'll go back into here. All right. Oh, thank you, Caroline, for bringing that back up. And I guess another two is in terms of questions, other pieces that might be, I'd also love to know just from a show of hands, maybe a show of emojis, kind of where folks might be in, if there's certain areas that you're leaning into, either in terms of, you're in the midst of a deployment right now, this is something that you might be interested in, or if there's other problems like, shadow IT or other pieces that we'd like to dive into.
I think the overwhelming silence is you were just so good. It was so good. Like, there's just no questions. It just covered everything so comprehensively. So if you do have any other questions.
More likely, yes, I was going to say, if you have some, please send us. Love to hear it.
Yes, please do reach out. Also, we will be having a couple of live in-person, like face-to-face human events coming up in the near future. So please do register for that. You can reach out to either the Wursta team, Jumpcloud team, Google, the whole trifecta will be there. And again, if you do have any questions, you'd like to speak with us about a specific use case, a specific situation that you're experiencing right now, please do feel free to contact us. And Chase, you've got your first kudos, not a question, more of a statement. Thanks, Brett. And with that, I think we will wrap up. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I hope this was very informational, and we look forward to hearing from you in the near future.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Take care now.